They spake unto them at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, saying, The Lord commanded by the hand of Moses to give us cities to dwell in, with the suburbs thereof for our cattle. And the children of Israel gave unto the Levites out of their inheritance, at the commandment of the Lord, these cities and their suburbs. And it goes down the list in the different tribes, under the different families, the cities and the suburbs. Interesting use of the word suburbs. We wouldn't call suburbs what they're calling suburbs. They're talking about farmland. I don't call Carlton a suburb of anything. And that's basically what they're doing. They're taking your land and calling it a suburb. It's just an outskirt of a urban area. And their cities were not very urban compared to our cities today. But it was a suburb. Now we jump down, and the cities are listed, 48 cities in there. And I don't know that all 48 are on here, but it's pretty close, okay? Jump down to verse 43. Let me go back, verse 41, okay? And all the cities of the Levites within the possession of the children of Israel were 48 cities with their suburbs. These cities were every one with their suburbs round about them. Thus were all these cities. And the Lord gave unto Israel all the land which he sware to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it and dwelt therein. And the Lord gave them a rest round about. This isn't just the Levites. The Lord gave them rest round about according to all that he sware unto their fathers, and there stood not a man of all their enemies before them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. There failed not aught of any good thing which the Lord had spoken unto the house of Israel. All came to pass. Okay? So we come to the tribe of Levi. It's the only tribe we haven't talked about. We talked about every other tribe, at least to some degree. The man, the tribe, and everything like that. So we're going to follow a very similar pattern with this tribe. The tribe of Levi, number one, the man. We don't have notes up on the screen tonight, so if you have trouble spelling something, let me know. The man. M-A-N, right. Good job, Bruce. I'm proud of you. Levi was the third son of Jacob and Leah. And the name Levi means complete. You can write that out to the side if you want to. The name Levi means complete. Whenever, when Jacob married Leah, okay, she knew that she's not who he wanted. That was not his heart's desire. Laban had to trick Jacob to get him to marry Leah. She knew that. And then he said, if she didn't know it before, he then said, well, I want Rebekah. So what do I have to do? Well, you got to work another 7 years. He'd already worked 7. He was deceived. And then he said, work another 7. So he worked 14 years. He worked 7 to be tricked into marrying Leah. And then he worked not another, but he worked 14 in order to get what he wanted. There was no secret about who Jacob loved with his heart, okay? So whenever she had, when Leah had Levi, which was their third son, she said they named him Levi because it meant complete, and she said, now, I've given him the third son, 3 sons, now he'll accept me. Can you imagine living your life like that? Can you imagine your entire adult existence being second class? She's the only one who could give him, to that point, she was the only wife that could give him children. Yet, she was the unloved, the second class. And third son, she says, now maybe he'll accept me because I've given him 3 sons. Whew, what a hard life. A life of rejection. Complete rejection. Levi, most known for the attack of Shechem. Okay, I'll spell that for you. S-H-E-C-H-E-M. So she, C-H-E-M. S-H-E-C-H-E-M. Most known for the attack of Shechem with Simeon. And Shechem was the city where we talked about a few weeks ago when we talked about the tribe of Simeon, where the daughter of Jacob, Dinah, had been raped by the governor's son. And they came back and said, hey, let's make this right by her marrying him. And Levi and Simeon went up and so Jacob said, all right, fine, every man in the city has to be circumcised. So they said, all right, we'll do it. So we were all circumcised, and while they were weak and injured, the families of Levi and Simeon went in and killed the men, destroyed everything in the city just about. And that's one of the things he was most known for. And because of that, their blessing of Jacob in Genesis 49 was not a blessing. It was of God that they would be scattered. Turn back to Genesis 49 and we'll look at that. I think we may have done that a few weeks ago, but let's do it again. Genesis 49 verses 5 through 7. Simeon and Levi are brethren, instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly. Mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. And that's what happened. They were scattered, and we'll talk more about that in a little while. The blessing of Moses in Deuteronomy 33, verses 8 through 11. That's the man. And really the blessing of Moses has to do with the tribe, but I include it with the blessings. Okay. Number 2, the tribe. The tribe. A very prominent tribe in that it was the tribe of Moses and Aaron. I mean, if any tribe had right to say, look at us, look at who we are, it was the tribe of Moses and Aaron, the leaders of Israel, the original leaders. Moses is he's the writer of the 5 books, first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, the law, and all that. They have every right to say, look at who we are. But unfortunately, later you have the thing with Shechem that took place, or earlier. I'm sorry, they come from that issue with Shechem, but they were chosen of God. It's amazing what God does. You know, when you look at this group, you look at Levi. After God, through Jacob, cursed him in the blessing, instead of giving a blessing, hey, your families, you're going to be scattered because you're violent and wicked. I don't know if I were God, and again, I come back to only God would write this book. I wouldn't write it this way. I wouldn't choose Levi to be the minister, the tribe of Levi to be the ministers of God. I would have chosen Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Jacob. They were, or sons of Joseph. Joseph was the man of faith. He was the man who endured and prospered. I'd have chosen one of them, but no, he chooses Levi. Only God would do that. And we find the choosing of them in Numbers chapter 3, verses 11 through, 43. It's in that area. Up to that point, up until Numbers chapter 3, after the Passover, the firstborn, God said, listen, your firstborns belong to me. It was the tithe. It was the tithe of the family, that the firstborn child and the firstborn of the livestock belonged to God. That didn't mean they sacrificed them to God. But God had first right on the firstborn. And in Numbers chapter 3, God chooses to set aside, this is number 2 in the notes, God chose to set aside the Levites instead of the firstborn. And so he made the Levites, the tribe of Levi, the chosen tribe. And when they came into Israel, when they came into the promised land, here they are dividing up. And they knew this. The tribe knew this when they came in. Here they are dividing up their inheritance. Yes, instead. I'm used to notes being up there. It's my fault. Instead of the firstborn. When they come into the land, here they are dividing up tribes and huge lots of land for the tribe. And the Levites are waiting, waiting, and waiting because their inheritance was not land. God was their inheritance. Number 3, God was their inheritance. Did everybody get God chose to set aside the Levites instead of the firstborn? Did everybody get that? Okay. Chosen of God. I'm sorry, I forget. I forgot. Everybody caught it. Does anybody need anything else while we're here? Can I get you a cup of coffee? Okay, so we're caught up. I'll try to remember. Wave at me if I don't do it. But God was their inheritance. They were kind of the forerunners of us. God is our inheritance. The Lord Jesus is our inheritance. And we claim a lot of things through Jesus Christ. We come here tonight and we offer up prayer requests. We come and we open the Word because our inheritance is Jesus Christ. If our inheritance wasn't Jesus Christ, we are coming together and offering prayers with no effect. But Jesus Christ, God the Son, is our inheritance. Man, when you start thinking about that, you think about their inheritance, God. Now, there's no land with that. I mean, they got cities, but they didn't have this as our tribe, this is our land. No, they had cities and they were dispersed. They were dispersed. But God was their inheritance, and in their area, they were the ministers. They were the ones that people came to worship with. I don't know how it worked. I don't know if they built synagogues there in this time, but they had places where they came together and worshiped, I have no doubt. Now, it wasn't like the temple. It wasn't like the tabernacle. In fact, it didn't take too long before the tabernacle was obsolete in this time. And they had abandoned national worship. And so any worship that took place was taking place in a small, I don't want to say individual, that's not the best word, but a small congregation similar to this is how it was taking place. So God was their inheritance. They were chosen to serve the ministry of God. They supervised, that's letter A under that is they supervised the cities of refuge. If you read and look at that map, the red circles on this map on the back, sorry, I said we wouldn't reference it. I'm sorry, I'm breaking my word. The red circles are the cities of refuge, and they are all Levitical cities. And so they supervised the cities of refuge. They oversaw those things. And they ministered in the tabernacle and then the temple. What an honor. What an honor. The priest, the high priest, all came from the tribe of Levi. What they're doing in Israel, modern day Israel, is something remarkable. They are spending millions of dollars tracing bloodlines. They're ready. They lack just a couple of temple items of worship, items of sacrifice. They're trying to get a pure red heifer that meets the requirements of the Old Testament red heifer. They're trying to breed that into happening. But I've not been there. I think you've been there where they have the stones ready to build the temple. I mean, they've got a warehouse full of stones ready to put the temple up. They've got the menorah, and the menorah is on display in the city, right by the western wall. I mean, you can stand there and look at this monstrous, it's encased in glass about that thick, but it's out there for everybody to see. $13 million, I think. $13 million. I think the king of Jordan donated, which is so weird, donated the money for it. $13 million, pure gold. It may have been more than that, but I think that's what it was. Not pure gold, overlaid. Gold overlaid. menorah, they have the table of showbread. They've got the Levitical garments, the priest garments, the ephod with the breastplate and with the stones in it. They're ready to go. They're ready to build it and worship. And they've got the Levitical bloodlines. They've got priests ready to go. It's pretty, if you want to go on the internet to Google it, go to the Temple Institute. Google the Temple Institute. And man, you'll find enough resources to want to go and see it in person. You know what the one thing they don't have though? Well, they kind of have that. They kind of have that. Now there's a lot they gotta get the Muslim Dome of the Rock off there in order to do it. But you know what they don't have in order to complete worship? That's right, Ark of the Covenant. Now some people think they do. I don't. I've said this before, and I don't have any biblical basis for this. They think the temple, or they think there's a theory that there's an Ethiopian group that has it also. I think it's in heaven. That's just my personal opinion. You're not going to find that in here. Okay, don't go looking for it, and I'm not going to argue about it. That's just what I think. I think if any man knew where it was, it'd be World War III to find it, to get it. That's what I think. Anyway, we'll move on. They ministered in the tabernacle, then the temple, and what an honor, what a privilege to do that, to be able to be in that place of worship. Then we come to number 3, their God. Their God. And we see the faithfulness of God. God was, number 1, faithful in provision. Faithful in provision. He provided for him. He said, I'm going to give you a place, and you've got he provided the things they needed for it. He provided the things they needed. Now, we don't read about this necessarily in Scripture, but he provided the things for worship in their areas. I don't believe, and this is why I think that they worshiped in the different locations. I don't think God would set apart a people as ministers of worship and not have them lead worship. I just don't believe that. I think that did they do it? Not always, I'm sure. If the high priest Eli and his boys were reprobates, probably burning in hell tonight, but his boys were next in line and they were heathen. That took place other places. That was going on other places. It's amazing what religious power does to people. Political power does things to people, but religious power, it'll do things. But he was faithful in providing everything. Letter B, he was faithful in his promise. Now, he promised them in Numbers 3, or that's where he set them apart. I can't remember where it was now. I think it may have been Numbers 3. It may have been Numbers 3 that he set up the cities. He made the promise of cities, and he fulfilled it. He fulfilled it. He gave them 48 cities to divide into, to be a part of. But he also fulfilled his promise in that he would scatter them. We like to talk about the good promises of God. Oh yeah, God made a promise that he was gonna give them the cities, and he gave them the cities. Well, why did he give them the cities? Because he made a promise beforehand that they were going to be scattered. The action of Levi and Simeon. Of course, Simeon wasn't divided like Levi in that he was in different. But Simeon, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Simeon, the tribe of Simeon existed in a small part inside the tribe of Judah. So really, they just were part of the tribe of Judah. So they had nothing to call their own, really. They were, in a sense, divided. But he promised. He promised in Genesis 49, I'm going to divide you in Israel. And he did. And we forget sometimes that God doesn't forget His promises. When I was younger, and I would do things. You know this to be true, but I've never really said this. My dad was kind of forgetful about things. And I got in trouble one time, and I was supposed to be grounded for 2 weeks. And about 5 days later, my dad forgot about the grounding. I was able to go. He had forgotten about his promise in that regard. There were other things that he had said that he forgot about. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying they were things that he promised to do for me and he forgot. I'm just saying we're forgetful. We make promises to people and we're human. We forget the things we say. God doesn't forget. And when God, through Jacob, said, I will divide you in Israel, He didn't forget about it. And whenever God says that you sow, you're going to reap. He doesn't forget about that either. And we want God to remember the good promises. God, you said I'll never leave you or forsake you. God, you said call unto me and I will answer thee. And believe but whenever it comes to God saying, you know what? You're a disobedient child. And I'm going to deal with you. Oh, but God, we do it. That's who we are. We want God to forget about those promises. And then we get mad if we think God forgot about the good promises. We are children, are we not? I mean, that's who we are. Children of God, and as children, we act like, I said I got corrected Sunday. I was corrected Sunday. I said my 3-year-old. He's 4. My daughter, who was it? You correct? Was it you that corrected me? Maybe it was, I don't know who it was. Somebody said he's 4. Okay, I'm sorry. He's 4. Let her say he's faithful in protection. Verses 43 through 45, really 44 and 45. And the Lord gave them rest round about, according to all that He sware unto their fathers, and there stood not a man of all their enemies before them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. Now they had not fulfilled everything they were supposed to do. But even in not doing what they were supposed to do, God did His part. He was faithful in His promises. He was faithful in His protection. Now they ran. We come in just a few chapters, and I think we're probably going to continue the study right through the book of Judges. We're just going to go from Joshua right into Judges. And we come into the book of Judges, and it's awful. The book of Judges is a terrible book. Now, God does some miraculous things, but it's a shame that the book is even in the Bible. But He's faithful in His protection. I'm a little ahead of myself here, but we'll talk about this when we come to Judges. If it were any of us in charge, and the people we loved, cared for, provided for, and had made promises to, and if you'll do this, I'll do this, if they acted towards us the way the Israelites act towards God in the book of Judges, we'd have just wiped them off the face of the earth and started over. We would have. But God answers, He responds, and He protects them. He protects them when they're doing what they're supposed to do. So many Christians. Look, I've dealt with teenagers and I've dealt with adults that say, I don't understand why. And I'll say, do you want me to be honest? Well, yeah. Because you're living away from God. And you live away from God, but you expect the protection of God. If my kid runs out in the street They run away from my hand. We're walking together, and they pull away, and they run in the street, and about 5 feet from the car, they yell out, "Daddy, help!" What am I supposed to do? What can I do? And yet we do the same thing with God that the Israelites did. Run away, say, "Oh, God, help." And if we get back in the right spot, God will help. And sometimes that's judgment. And that's what they went through many times. They had to finally come to a place where they said, "Okay, God, we'll do whatever you want us to do." Well, you need to get your life right. Tear down the altars. Get rid of the idols and make things right with me. And they would do it for a period. God would send a judge, deliver them, and for a time, you're just going to see, if you've never studied the book of Judges, it's this right here. It's a progression. Oh, victory! Idol worship. Oh, got taken over by the enemy and spend time in there. Oh, God. Samson gets his eyes punched out. Victory. They cry out, "God, help!" Victory. I mean, it's a sad thing. But that's Levi. But God is faithful. God is faithful. In spite of our lack of faithfulness, He's faithful. And Lord, we are thankful for your faithfulness. Lord, I am so thankful in my life you've not acted towards me the way I would have acted towards me if I were in charge. Lord, I would have given up on me a long time ago, and I thank you that you haven't, that you've preserved me, allowed me to live the life I have, to be able to serve you in the capacity that I do. Lord, it's much more than I deserve. Lord, I pray that we will live lives, try to live lives worthy of your blessing. In Jesus' name, amen. Yeah.